Democrats themselves have always had a maturity problem. We're not praising Republicans here, but they've just always been overly emotional. Everything's a new outrage, right? And along those same lines, when things don't go their way, Democrats instinctively, they don't improve, they don't change tactics, they lecture, they scold, they talk down to us, just like a bratty teenager might talk down to you. And these people, they've been doing this for the longest time when it comes to the economy. And now that Joe Biden's poll numbers are looking bad, and no one knows how November's going to go, I'm not making any presidential predictions, nor would I. Now that November's looking bad, Joe Biden's down in all these swing states, Donald Trump's numbers are up. Now the poll numbers are looking bad. So many of these people are looking around and they're facing the prospect of a potential election loss. And instead of changing tactics, instead of adjusting policies, instead they're angry with you. And they're sick and tired of you and your concerns about your bills and your groceries. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't care whether or not you're better off now than you were 4 years ago.
We were not in this insanity of trying to figure out why our history is no longer welcome in the educational system. Women were realizing something was happening. If you were coming from another country, if you were coming to this country to find a better life, you were not welcome. Listen, it wasn't a good time for lots of people.
Yeah.
And all you have to do to ask, are we better off than we were? Ask the thousands of people who are no longer here. That's how you know if we're better off. Ask their families, are they better off without their loved ones? What a stupid question. It's a stupid question and disrespectful to the American people, in my opinion.
You care about your bills? You care that you cry in the grocery store because you can't afford eggs this week? You care that you can't find a good job, you're now working 2 or 3, can't pay your power bill, can't fill up your car, family vacation, that's a thing of the past. Why would you care about that, peasant? Don't you know? America once had slaves. That's how sick these people are. And I want you to understand this. These people like that, she's worth $60 million. She hasn't been deprived of a thing. She's never cried in the grocery aisle unless they were at a Little Debbie's. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't care at all. She's so angry with you that you won't just burn down America, that you won't destroy your way of life and help her burn down this country that she hates so much. And this is exactly how these people think. Did you know, get this, here's a stat for you. You need to make 6 figures now to own a home in 22 states. That number used to be, just 4 years ago, 6 states. So we've gone from 6 states to 22 states. That's almost half of the states in the United States of America. Most people, won't ever own a home. I have 2 sons, James and Luke. They're 15 and 13. We've talked to them already, not bringing them down, but letting them know, hey, yeah, we own a home. There's a chance you may not. Just because of the way the economy has gone, the way it's going, there's a chance you'll never own a home like mom and dad did. People are watching their way of life disappear, and these people have such disdain for you. Remember when Peter St. Onge came on the show and said many people, it's going to be renters now forever?
So right now, if you want to qualify for the median house, we're not talking a mansion, the median house, you got to make $100,000 a year. All right, and your monthly payment on a new mortgage is gonna be close to $3,000. That's like half of household income for the median family. So houses are absolutely out of reach. And what we're seeing now is young people, they are completely giving up. All these costs are slamming the door closed to people buying a house. That means they're gonna be renters forever. If you're a renter forever, you are building nothing. You are not building a retirement. You're not building the basis for a family.
And People are angry and they're sad as they watch it all disappear. And the elites don't care. The communists do not care at all. In fact, they understand this is the goal, and they will scold you the entire way. They'll scold you because, well, part of the revolution is the transition.
Russia's war only enhances the urgency of the need to transition the world off its dependence on fossil fuels.
So America is at the start of an historic transition.
But we are accelerating this transition to a clean energy future.
This is not a transition to be feared. It's a transformation to be seized.
We're in a transition, and transitions are complicated.
They can go electric, they can do heat pumps. This is how you transition.
I just want to remind you that it's intentional. That home loan you can't afford, the meat you can't buy, the vacation you can't take, it was taken away from you by these people. Punish them at the ballot box. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am most definitely right. You want to know one of the things that's always bothered me when I read about history or watch a documentary about history, or when I get into history at all, one of the things that's bothered me is this. When nations of any size, of any kind, when they're starting to go downhill a little bit, crumble, come apart, I don't know what word or what phrase you want to put on it, but when things are towards the back end, you're on the back nine, right? When it's finally done, the people who are ruling the nation, in charge of the nation, oftentimes, and honestly, it's the most common thing, they don't go down when the country goes down. You know, you don't go from being king of wherever, Zimbabwe, and the country falls, and wow, you're sitting there begging for spare change on the corner like everyone else, like the citizens. No. The king, and all the king's men, of course, all his administrators, they always seem to dance off to Argentina, to a villa they have somewhere. And of course, historically, they always describe the king and all his men as living in exile. You know, he was forced to live in exile, and you dig into it, and he was in a castle with all his servants, lived out the rest of his days in luxury. Why does this happen? Why is this such a common historical tale? Because towards the end of an empire, when things go bad, the evil men who are destroying the empire bleed the treasury dry. Instead of feeling a duty to their nation, whatever that nation may be, instead of trying to reverse the trend, turn things around, they just look at that big pot of gold in the treasury and they say, let's fill up our pockets with some of that before we check out of here. What's going on here in America? Well, this number is a little bit staggering, but I just want you to wrap your mind around this. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, right? Those three. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They now are 84% of total revenue. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the numbers. They're huge, but just know that our government takes in $4 trillion. It's a little more than that. Our government takes in a little over $4 trillion every year. On those three things alone, government now spends 84% of that $4 trillion on those three things, and that number is increasing. It's not as if it's staying right there. That number is going up. So what does that mean? Well, you want a military? Think that's important? Any of the other duties the federal government has, they're all lumped into that teeny tiny 16% that is left. I mean, my goodness, this year alone, the interest on the debt will exceed defense spending. Let me repeat that again so you understand that. All those ships, all those planes, all those missiles, all those bases, all those troops, all those uniforms and bullets and bombs, the interest on the national debt, just paying the interest, you're not touching the principal payment, the interest, it will exceed our defense spending in this country. What's happening right now is, all right, I don't want to say late stages, but I'm going to put it this way. I don't know what America is going to look like 50 years from now, but it will not look like it looks today. Because the debt crisis that's coming, I'm not going to say it's going to end the country. I'm not going to say that. You could come up with in your head a scenario where it could, but I'm not saying that. But it is going to forever alter the life of future Americans. It's coming. And instead of trying to reverse the trend, instead of having the all hands on deck meeting they should be having right now, that shouldn't even be partisan. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, the Green Party, Libertarians, it should be an all hands on deck meeting where you take every part of the government, picture it like a bowl with 100 marbles in it. And it's not that you're figuring out which marbles you have to cut. No. They're all gone. Just dump the bowl of marbles. Now we can go back to the marbles and figure out the few we can put back in the bowl. But we're in emergency time here now. It's not even 10 years away. It's coming. And instead, we are led by the most evil, cowardly, selfish people. The president's bragging about cutting the deficit.
It cuts the deficit by $160 billion. $160 billion. I'm serious. Think about it.
We're not cutting the deficit. We're spending trillions and trillions more than we're taking in. So what does it mean for you? What does it mean for the country? Well, what do you think it would mean if all the people out there are on Social Security, maybe you yourself are on Social Security, what do you think it would mean for not just them, for the United States of America, if everyone on Social Security got 20-some% slash in their Social Security check? Pause for a moment before we go to Rand Paul. I just want to lay this out. So the people who rely on it, paycheck to paycheck, when they get their cut, what do? Can they afford the rent anymore? Food? They might have to move in with the kids. How does that alter the entire economy? How does that alter just the real estate market alone? Children. Think about what just that cut means. Now, I want you to sit back and listen to United States Senator Rand Paul tell you what's coming and when it's coming.
And it's not that I want to have reforms, it's that if we don't have the reforms, there will be no Social Security for the next generation and there will be no Medicare. And it's going to happen pretty quickly. Within the next couple of years, the people who live on the basic smallest amount of Social Security, which I believe is around $700 a month, those people will get a 20% cut in their Social Security unless we reform it. So you have to reform it.
It's coming. And the people who should be saving us, the people who should be having that meeting, none of them are even talking about having the meeting. It's not like a few guys want to have the meeting or a bunch of guys want to have the meeting, but hey, we can't get it in Bob's schedule this week. No one's even discussing having that meeting. Nobody. We're else watching it happen. Government Accountability Office just found $236 billion in improper payments for 2023 alone. 74% of those were overpayments. What's that mean? Well, they're looting the Treasury. The people in the government who should be meeting, who should be discussing saving us, they're looting us, pillaging us on the way out the door. Do you want me to go into all the climate stuff? You know, John Podesta, famous Democrat activist John Podesta. Did you know he was paid thousands of dollars by a foreign billionaire funded group? What's this group about? Oh, it's all about the climate change stuff. Climate change this and climate change that and climate change this. Well, so he goes from being a Democrat activist to being a man who works with the Going Green people. Democrats get elected. They work directly with John Podesta. The money gets blood sucked out of your paycheck and handed to their friends. Those ancient historical stories we talked about at the beginning of the show, where the king and all his men, they don't suffer when the people crumble. They leave to their villa. It's happening. You're seeing it happen right now. Look, the president of the United States is involved. Quote, don't mention Joe being involved. It's only when you are face to face. That is former Joe Biden business partner. That's a text he sent to Tony Bobulinski. So let's keep in mind what all that stuff about, the Tony Bobulinski, Joe Biden stuff. Joe Biden, as United States Senator, as Vice President, and I'm sure now as President of the United States of America, has become highly invested in China, sending all your taxpayer money over to his business friends in China to build solar panels over there, all while destroying the domestic energy production of any kind here in the United States of America. So while you get poorer, while you watch your power bill double, Joe Biden gets more and more dollar signs added to his bank account, looting the Treasury as we go down. Look, all these people care about is money and power. That's it. They don't think like you think. That's what's so criminal. They don't think about America. They don't get misty when the national anthem is playing. Do you remember why the strategic oil reserve has been emptied? Do you remember why that happened? Well, we were coming up on the midterm election, and Joe Biden has destroyed our oil industry, so gas prices were through the roof. Joe Biden was worried about Democrats losing too many seats in the House, and so he drained the strategic oil reserve for emergency purposes only, to save Democrat seats in the House of Representatives. Now it's so low that we can't refill it. They just announced they're not refilling it because prices are too high. We don't even have a strategic oil reserve. Again, looting the Treasury, pillaging us on the way out the door. Let's pause on illegal immigration for a moment. You know about the Great Society? That's what it was called. What a name, of course, the Great Society. Well, did you know that black families in the 1950s in the United States of America, 75% of black people in the United States of America in the 50s grew up in a two-parent home? Did you know that? Now, people love to talk about the black community in America today, and they always talk about what? They all vote Democrat, the crime, the fatherlessness. Okay, that's okay. About 30% of black people in America today grow up in a two-parent home. How'd that happen? What happened? Well, let me clue you in on what happened. Even during the terrible segregation time of the 50s and whatnot, white-only restaurants, all that evil crap, the black family was rising and thriving, expanding manufacturing. It was going very well. And then Democrats did something. Pay attention. This is going to come back to illegal immigration. Democrats realized, hey, we have an opportunity here. We can steal this voting demographic from Republicans. What will we do? We will massacre the black family. We'll pass a bunch of laws that look really nice, but they'll incentivize the destruction of the black family. And Lyndon Johnson's own words, it's a quote directly attributed to him, is I'll have those, he used the N-word, that's the kind of guy he was, I'll have those blank voting Democrat for 200 years. Here we are in the year of our Lord, 2024, the Great Society, all that welfare crap they passed, blew up the black family. Now they've been a reliable Democrat vote for how long? Bought off by government programs, bought off on purpose by evil Democrats. Now let's come back to today. 10 million. Look, that number's light. Remember, the illegals were pouring in even before Joe Biden took over. They just hit the gas pedal once Joe Biden took over. But let's just make it 10 million. They're all going to stay. You know that, right? We're not deporting hardly anybody. They're all staying. They're welcoming more in. They're encouraging more in. As we speak, there's another migrant caravan, as they call it, even though they're illegals, heading north, heading towards America's border. So you brought in 10 million people. You already know the disgusting interpretation of our laws gives these people their children, it gives their children citizenship. So the 10 million, yeah, we all know they're going to get amnesty of some kind in some way. Republicans will help Democrats give them that, but let's act like that never even happens. Let's say none of those 10 million get amnesty. All their children will be American citizens. Social security numbers, driver's licenses, and they'll be voting American citizens the second they turn 18. Now, let me ask you, how many children is that? Off just the 10 million, how many children? How many people are we talking about here? 20 million? 30? Let's go another generation down. 50 million isn't at all an unreasonable number. 50 million guaranteed new Democrat votes bought off with your taxpayer money. You can see it happening in front of your eyes. It's why they're not, I mean, yeah, they're doing a bunch of black outreach this year in an election year, of course. Joe Biden's doing that, but you can see they're not even stressing that much. They're not changing things, their policies when it comes to taking in all these illegals in cities like New York and Chicago. Where are they putting the illegals? Stuffing them right in the black neighborhoods, the black schools, the black rec centers. The black people in these neighborhoods are outraged, yelling at them, "What are you doing? Why'd I vote for Joe Biden?" And yet Democrats aren't removing these illegals, are they? In fact, they're bringing in more. Why is that? Well, they found a new girl. They found a new, reliable voting bloc in the illegals and their children to come. It's really, really bad. And plus, they get all the benefits of the crime, remember. Remember, crime, chaos, angst, all this social anxiety that comes when you bring a bunch of murderers and rapists and drug dealers into the country. It makes people afraid. It makes people turn to government. You see this story out of the Bronx?
The squatters, and the the owner, has been trying to get them out of the apartment for the longest period of time. And I think he has a court date set. Apparently, because they're squatters of more than 30 days, they came and they were kind of a disruptive force, mainly because there were a lot of them, and you didn't know who was staying there or not staying there. And, the owner of the building had a hell of a time trying to get them out.
Now, De Sosa, Villata, and 7 others were charged with criminal possession of a weapon, criminal possession of a controlled substance, and acting in a manner injurious to a child. All but 2 were released without bail. Now, Villata was already charged with attempted murder for shooting another person in the leg. That was over in Yonkers. As for these other suspects, they are being investigated right now, all tied to a string of robberies.
Yeah. If you're someone on the right defending this as a day that just happened to fall on that day, don't play stupid with me. The White House could have abstained, every Democrat in America, in fact, could have abstained from putting out a message on Easter about it being Trans Visibility Day. They instead decided to go all in. New York Governor Kathy Hochul lit up the state's landmarks in pink and white and blue. It wasn't like a passive thing. Oh, whoops, was that on today? Democrat after Democrat after Democrat did that on purpose. They knew exactly what they were doing. And please stop playing stupid. They knew what they were doing. Now, the question is, why? Why are they doing it? Well, let's have a larger talk here. It's about more than just Trans Visibility Day or the White House or something like that. It's a talk we haven't had in a while, but it is an important talk, and it can be a very offensive, uncomfortable talk. Maybe this talk will be uncomfortable to you. Nations have religions, all of them. Doesn't matter what nation it is. Doesn't matter how big or how small it is. Men, all men, we are created to worship something. It is something inside of all of us. Everyone does. Doesn't matter whether you think you do or do not. Everyone worships something. Nations will have a religion. Even a tiny tribe, they'll have a religion. Now, why? Beyond our nature to worship something, you will have a religion because religion is the sun of your society. No, not the Lord and Savior. I'm talking about the sun. You know how the sun is? The sun is the center of our universe and everything orbits around it. Everything orbits around your national religion, whatever that religion may be. So if you're in Saudi Arabia, your national religion is Islam, as you well know. What does that mean? Well, everything in that society, the education, you walk into their school system, you think you'll see any references to Allah or Islam? Entertainment. If you sit down at night, long day, and you set up for some pita bread and hummus or whatever they eat over there, do you think maybe you'll see references to Islam on the television set, on the news at night? You will see Islamic references all over the public buildings, the landmarks, the head of the nation, the royal family of Saudi Arabia? Do you think they ever reference Islam, Allah, the Prophet Muhammad in any way? Of course they do. Why? Why is it everywhere? Because it is their national religion, so everything orbits around it. Doesn't matter whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it's their national religion. In Israel, it would be Judaism. In the United States of America, it used to be Christianity. The country was founded by Christians. No, I don't give a crap if you believe that or not. It's just a historical fact. It was founded by Bible-believing Christians, and our laws, our society, our education system, every part of it has kind of been orbiting around that. But communism, you see, communism is not an ideology. It's not an economic system. Communism is a religion, as I've explained to you many, many, many times. There's a reason the communists took over the Soviet Union and burned down the Orthodox churches. There's a reason they took over China and they tore down the Buddhist temples. There's a reason communists in America, with the gay portion of their agenda, there's a reason they took the religious symbol, the rainbow, which was a promise from God to the people to never flood the earth again, and they made it their symbol. And it's not a freaking accident that Trans Visibility Day just happens to fall right around Easter time. So if you get lucky, you may just be able to stick it to all of those Christians. We have a new religion on the move in the United States of America. Whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. You have to acknowledge that there is a religious war going on, and you must acknowledge this. Whatever you believe, this country will have a religion. People who don't have any belief system, and maybe that's you. And I'm not passing any judgment on anybody. I'm not qualified to do so. Maybe you don't have any religious beliefs. Okay, that's fine, but you better understand there's no such thing as a secular nation. It's not a thing that has ever existed in the history of the world. We will have a religion, not one hopefully that dominates all others and excludes all others. I'm not saying that, but the country will have a central belief system. And if the Christians of the United States of America don't get off their butts, get out of the pews, and start marching like an army to the voting booth to sweep Democrats out of power in this country, the new one, I promise you're not going to like it very much. All right?